Good day and welcome to Magpie Advice. This is the first video in the series which I am entitling Court Without a Lawyer. My name is Stephen and I will be your narrator for this series, and during the course of this series we will be essentially touching on how you do not necessarily need a lawyer or to be qualified in law to represent yourself in court. Now, the reason I'm making this series is because obviously getting decent representation in court is incredibly expensive, and the legal aid system is, well, not really worth even mentioning at the moment due to cutbacks and various other problems that they come across. Essentially, almost nobody qualifies for legal aid, even though they can't afford legal advice. It is crazy, but there you have it. However, a lot of people don't realise that there are ways where you can obtain affordable legal assistance without having to employ a lawyer or a barrister. Now, this legal assistance, as it were, is called a Mackenzie friend. Now, a Mackenzie friend is an individual who is not necessarily trained or qualified in law, but has definitely had experience in law. They are usually paralegals. In other words, people who have worked with lawyers but aren't lawyers themselves. We will be discussing through this video where that came about, because to most people, if you say, oh, go and get a Mackenzie friend, you're going to look at them a bit funny. I mean, what's a Mackenzie friend? Well, why do they call it that? That doesn't sound very professional. But there is a story behind why we call such individuals who apply or offer this sort of assistance Mackenzie friends. But essentially the definition, of course, is a Mackenzie friend offers lay advice and supports you as a litigant in person before and during court proceedings. Now, the term litigant in person just means basically you are representing yourself. Now, a Mackenzie friend, not being a lawyer, cannot speak for you in court, but what they do is essentially help you prepare your court case, your court papers, and as they've had experience, they can tell you the procedures and behaviours that are expected in court. And quite often they are able to accompany you into court, where they can offer you advice quietly whilst you are in court. They're not allowed to interfere with the court proceedings, but they can take notes for you, pass you papers and advise you on what questions to ask, etc. And also to basically be there for support, so you're not alone. So you have someone with you who is familiar with the court. Because courts are scary places if you've never been to one, because of what you've seen on TV and stuff like that. And it's not really as bad as it seems. A large amount of the procedure in court is just pomp and pageantry. It's just, you know, how can I put it? It's the magistrates and the lawyers doing their stuff, as it were, you know, being like a peacock and just trying to make everyone think they're important. And to be perfectly honest, they're not important. They're just human beings like you. Now, obviously you have to have respect for the magistrate, but when it comes down to brass tacks, the magistrate is a human being and to a large extent is not qualified in law either. A lot of county court magistrates just go and do a few courses, but essentially they are advised by the clerk of the court, who is the person who's done the study in law. So you just have to get your case across so that the magistrate can understand the points that you need to make of why or whatever your argument might be. Now, if you're not a natural orator, a person that naturally likes to speak in public, this can be difficult at the best of times, and that is where the Mackenzie friend can help. Now, the Mackenzie friend, as I say, can't speak for you, but he can draw up what you need to say and can help you practice even saying it. A lot of Mackenzie friends will even go through a mock-up of the court appearance, so you can practice how you can say things and what you're going to say. And because they've obviously had experience in court, they know what impresses the magistrate, what doesn't impress the magistrate, what is actually important to the case. Because a lot of the time you don't need to highlight everything. There are just certain things that you need to say to get your point across. And a Mackenzie friend can draw up what we call a skeleton argument. Now obviously we're not talking about a skeleton like you might keep in your closet, but let's hope that that's not something that needs to come out in court. No, we're talking about the bare bones, the facts of the case and what needs to be put across. And also, particularly if they are there, they're able to see which way the wind is blowing, because they quite often will even know the magistrates and lawyers that are in the room there, because they would have had experience with them. So they know what impresses them, what doesn't, and you know, even their moods, because believe it or not, law is not necessarily fair. It's down a lot to what mood is the magistrate in, what mood is the clerk of the court in. But in general, you need to impress the clerk of the court, because he's the guy, or she, who is going to advise the magistrate as to the facts of law. Now, the Mackenzie friend, or the advantage, should I say, of the Mackenzie friend, is because they are not a lawyer, they are not allowed to charge exorbitant lawyer fees, and yet they can do 99% of the same work that a lawyer does, and they are usually way more affordable. You know, in some instances you can get good consultations between £25 and £50, and they'll even appear with you in court sometimes for maybe £100 a day, whereas a lawyer is going to charge you something like £300 an hour. So, you know, it is far more affordable. And the fact is, though, is that this is not common knowledge. And why is it not common knowledge? Because if it was common knowledge, all those lawyers and solicitors and barristers are going to lose money, because you're going to not go to them, not get indebted to them. But a Mackenzie friend is a formal legal term. It is accepted legally within our system, and they are, according to the law, allowed to charge a fee, though not on the same level as a solicitor. And most solicitors will say, oh, don't go with a Mackenzie friend. The reason they do that, of course, is because they're going to lose money. You know, they don't, a lot of the time, care about you. They just want to be able to charge their ridiculous fees. But there are a number of Mackenzie friends out there that can help you with family court matters to civil court matters, anything really. So, you know, that's basically the point of this first video. In the next video, I'm going to actually expand on this and tell you a little story of how the Mackenzie friend came about, because that was actually, it came about because of a court case, a divorce case in fact, between Mackenzie and Mackenzie. And it's rather an interesting little story. I wouldn't say necessarily comical, but it certainly provided for this service, which now, if more people knew about it, would benefit the nation, and also anybody who can't afford proper legal advice. So, that's it for this video. Until court is next in session, I will say ta-ta. Bye.